better.
Do you want a bit? Have you got a bit, darling?
Well, I feel a little bit awkward because soon we're about to interview our Prime Minister.
Do you know what?
Rishi Sunak.
I've got to be honest, Rishi, you don't mind a bit of breath, do you?
I mean, you're bringing some of that over here.
We're sorting you out. You tell us this. Come and have some.
Do you know
Come and have
what?
some, you want a bit.
Come in,
Let me get
Rishi.
another one
Get another
going.
plate.
Another
Come on,
plate.
Michaela.
Let's get another one on the go.
Right.
Morning.
How are you?
Hello.
Good, thank you.
How are you?
Very nice to see
Nice
you.
to see you too.
I'm going to get you.
Oh, I mean,
Get you a spoon, Rishi.
Can I borrow
we
a
were
plate from
supposed to
underneath?
start
Have a
and
little
come and
plate
sit down, but
underneath.
food is
Yeah.
always a good option,
No, I feel like
right?
I'm nicking yours.
Have you eaten this morning? Because we know you're on your fasting.
God, no, that is finished. I'm very
You've done
much-
it?
He's ready.
Well, into my
Tuesday.
second pastry of the day.
It's
so-
a
We're going to
Tuesday.
sort you out. Well, listen, for details of today's recipes and loads more from our team of chefs, you can take a look at our free This Morning app. Shall I do
Here we
it?
go. Coming
This is what I have
out.
to put up.
Don't forget a bit of the crispy chicken.
Crispy
Can't get
chicken.
some.
After the break, we're going to be joined, as you can see, by Prime Minister Rishi Sunak on the This Morning sofa. We're going to have a little bit of food, and we'll see you in about 4 minutes.
See you in a bit.
It's lovely.
It's so lovely.
Welcome back. We are joined now by Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, who's made a return to our This Morning sofa. Morning, Prime Minister. So
Via the
lovely to see
kitchen.
you. Via the kitchen.
We did make him come and join us
We
in
have
the
got
kitchen.
so much to talk to you about, as I'm sure you can imagine, but we do need to start. We did an item yesterday about you fasting from Sunday evening to Tuesday morning. You've just had a bit of chicken. Is that your first bit of food in the last go?
I've already had my second pastry today. So, no, yes, I didn't think we'd ever be talking about
I
it.
know, but welcome to This Morning.
This is this morning.
Here we go. No, so I wish I was as disciplined as has been reported. First thing to say. So, like all of us, I start the week with the best of intentions, and then you hit contact with reality at some point. Now, I try on a Monday after an indulgent weekend to try and have a day of
Fasting and pull
essentially.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not totally nothing, but largely nothing.
Yes.
And then pick it back up.
Do you have
again
the
on
odd
Tuesday.
nut?
I do have the odd nut, exactly, that kind of thing.
I knew it. I knew it. Straight on.
I mean, I think I'll start with the best of intentions. We all do, right?
Yes.
But then things happen. But I think my problem is I love sugary things. So I eat a lot of sugary pastries and all the rest of it the rest of the week, and I like my food. I don't exercise as much as I used to because of the job.
Yeah.
So that is the
you
thing.
like a little reset.
So the little reset at the beginning
Yeah.
of the week, little detox.
Maybe that's the
sets
trick
me up,
to it.
Well, I'm
and
pleased
there
that
we
you
go.
came in on a Tuesday rather than a Monday, because you wouldn't have been able to have
I wouldn't have been able to have that very
no
nice
chicken for you on a
chicken
Monday.
Very
Wasn't
nice.
it? Rishi, it's so lovely to see you today. We have got so much to talk
Yeah,
about.
let's get into it.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks for having me
Yesterday,
back.
it's a pleasure. The government announced the sale of disposable vapes are going to be banned in the UK. We know there's new powers that's also going to be introduced to restrict flavours which are specifically marketed towards children. How and when is this legislation going to be brought in? Because this is quite easy to say, but to do is a different matter.
Yeah, so it's something you guys have talked a lot about on
Yeah.
the show, actually, and it's good that you have. You talk to any parent, any teacher, and they'll talk to you about the worrying rise that we've seen in kids vaping, right? It's tripled in the last few years, and no one thinks that kids should be vaping. We don't want them to get addicted. We also don't know about the long-term health impacts of vaping, of course, because it's only been around for a little while. That's why I wanted to take action. And you kind of went over the things we're doing, banning disposable vapes, cracking down on the flavours, the appearance of things that look like they're really just for kids, and where they're displayed in stores, right? You know, where should they be? Behind the counter, by the till. So we've said that we're going to do all of those things. Now, we need to get that exactly right. So we want to do it as soon as practically possible. The thing we've got to get right is the balance between targeting kids vaping. We don't want that, and we want to make sure we clamp down on that. But look, for adults who are smokers, actually vaping is a very helpful tool for them to stop smoking, which is good for their health, and we need to make sure that it's available for them. And that's the balance we just need to get right.
So could this make it essentially harder for those adults? So those adults that are smokers that now vape, could the new legislation make that difficult for adults as well as the children that we don't want to access them?
Yeah, and that's the balance that we've got to get right. And I think we have got it right, because I think anyone who sees one of these packets and, bubblegum flavour, pink, this, you've seen them, we've all seen them. I was at a school yesterday up in Darlington talking to the kids there, and I had a big pile of them in front of me. As the kids themselves say, I was like, this is designed to target us. It's designed to target young kids. It's not designed at an adult.
They know.
But this is what's scary.
And so I think we can do it.
Yeah.
I think we can focus on the things that impact children, and disposable vapes are overwhelmingly the ones that children use, and all the flavours and the marketing where they are in the store. While supporting adult smokers, we actually have an NHS scheme called Swap to Stop, which is helping adult smokers with vaping
Rishi, if
kits.
you can get an appointment, let's be honest, It's hard to get a GP appointment at the minute. With
Definitely
stop the
not the
smoke scheme.
easiest.
Well, but you know what? We're doing something about that as well, actually. So tomorrow, funny that you mention it, tomorrow we're making an announcement that you'll be able to go and visit your pharmacist instead of your GP to go and get medicines you need for 7 of the most common ailments. So think about things like ear infections, sore throats. If you of your kids have got that, to your point at the moment, you have to wait for a GP appointment, maybe take time off work, school, go get the prescription. So from tomorrow, it's really exciting because I grew up in a pharmacy. My mum was a pharmacist. I worked in a pharmacy growing up, so I know how incredible they are. You'll be able to go to your pharmacist instead of getting that GP appointment, and actually for sore throat, ear infection and a bunch of other things, they will be able to get you the medicines you or your kids need without all of the hassle. And I think that's a really positive thing.
That, I think, is positive, yes. I think
pharmacists do a great job.
they really do. And we've done a phone-in about that before on the show when I was hosting before, where we said sometimes you don't necessarily have to visit your GP. Pharmacists do a brilliant job. And we've covered that on here. The one thing that does come up time and time again that worries me is that misdiagnosis, is the people that aren't... You know, if my little one had a cough, I would probably go to the pharmacy and sort it out that way, and if it was something that was looking straightforward. But for the people that they take that time to pluck up the courage to go to the doctor, and might have been something they've been living in for a while, and going to the pharmacy could be easy, but really they need that appointment. Are we going to see a solution soon to GP appointments being available? Because we cover it so much on this programme, and it's so frustrating.
Yeah, of course it is. Look, so I grew up with both. So my dad was a GP and my mum was a pharmacist. So I kind of grew up working primarily for my mum in her pharmacy. And to your point, Rochelle, ultimately, the choice is in the patient's hands. That's what we're doing. We're not saying you have to go and see the pharmacist.
But they don't have a choice because they can't get an appointment, and then the pharmacy is the only option.
Well, so let's do both things. Pharmacists now are incredibly highly trained, and I think it's worth bearing that in mind. They have consultation rooms, and we wouldn't have done this if we didn't think it was safe. And so that's the first thing to say. So I think people can, from tomorrow, go see their pharmacist and get the treatment for these 7 common ailments, and we're very comfortable that's a safe thing to do. Ultimately, the pharmacist might say that they should go and see the GP, or someone might feel more comfortable doing that if they think it's more serious. And you're right, we do need to do a better job of that. So what we are doing at the moment is making sure that all GP surgeries have the latest telephony systems, because I think everyone who's had to sit on the end of a phone, engaged call, actually, we can make that easier by just installing better phone systems with technology in all surgeries so that they can see the calls coming in, make sure that someone is spoken to quickly and gets a call back. That's being rolled out as we speak, and it will make a difference. But you're right, this isn't going to be fixed overnight. We're also training more and more GPs, but that obviously will take time to... And
look, we know there's not a magic money tree, but the junior doctors, they keep striking. A lot of people stand in solidarity with them because they do a fantastic job. Why can't we find that money to pay junior doctors more like they do in other countries? Yeah, so on this, you know, we found more money to pay all our NHS workers, actually, whether it's nurses, paramedics, physiotherapists, ambulances. We also recently reached a deal with the Senior Consultants Committee that narrowly hasn't passed, which is disappointing. Yeah. And all of these things, Marlon, are on the basis of an independent recommendation. So it's not me saying this is what I think we know that. Them, right? So we've accepted those independent recommendations. In some cases, we've gone even further, for example, with the doctors. And the junior doctors were offered, you know, on average, a kind of 10% pay rise, and then that was increased. They've said no. All the other million NHS workers are all working and have accepted the offer, and it's worth saying thank you to all of them for that. And look, it is disappointing. It is. And simply... It really is. Yeah, no, it is. But I think the thing, look, as you said, we don't have a magic money tree. We don't. And we don't, but there is money going other places. But we have to be fair to everybody. So I get that. With the million other NHS workers have all actually come to a reasonable agreement with the government. Every other bit of the public sector has come to a reasonable agreement. And look, I think what we've done is fair, it's reasonable, it's been endorsed by an independent body. Fair? I do. I really do. I really do. And what I'd say to people is, look, we had a month last year in November when there were no strikes. And in that month, the NHS waiting list fell by almost 100,000. It's the quickest reduction outside of the pandemic we've seen in waiting lists in well over a decade. And it shows that when everyone's working, no one's on strike, we can really get these waiting lists down that you were talking about earlier, Rochelle. Yeah. So I really hope that people will get around the table and come to a sensible offer. I'm sure you do. I think we all do. That's what we all want, let's be honest. But let's be completely honest here. An election's going to be coming up at some point this year. If you're the man that sorts this out with the junior doctors... Surely that's a winner for you, no? Yeah, but look, you know, my job is to do what's right in the country
in the long term.
Is that not right?
And ultimately, look, you're right, right. There's lots of things I could do.
Of course there is.
In the short term, everyone would say, oh, great, well
but
done.
But then in the long term, you think of children and you think of, you know, one day I want to grow up, mummy, and I want to be a doctor. Doctors are striking. That's, you know, they're not, you know, getting paid the money they want and deserve. Does that then stop the new generation of doctors, the people that hold this country up?
Well, so actually one of the things we've done for the first ever time in the NHS's 75-year history is we've given it what's called a long-term workforce plan. Because I think everyone knows we don't seem to train enough doctors and nurses in our own country, and we're reliant on people coming from abroad. Yeah. Now, they make an amazing contribution to our NHS.
They're amazing.
Right? But look, I think everyone would think, look, it's better that we train people at home, more of them, and no one has ever done that. Largely because, as a politician, you talk about elections, it takes 13, 14 years to fully train a consultant. You know, with the best will in the world, I'm probably not going to be sitting here in 13, 14 years. But I've done it because I think it's the right long-term thing for the country that we do have more nurses, more doctors, more dentists, more everyone trained here at home. And from this year, we're rolling out the start of a huge expansion in training places. And again, look, that's not going to help overnight, but I think everyone will think that's the right long-term thing for the country. And I'd rather be focused on doing that. And that is ultimately what leadership to me means. Right?
Prime Minister, we don't have like 2 hours. We would love to sit here and discuss all of these points further, but there is a lot of things we do try and need to get through. I don't know if you saw this morning, we had the parents of Grace and Barnaby from the Nottingham attacks. Heroic families on our sofa this morning. They're calling for a public inquiry. They don't agree with what's gone on with the conviction of...
They're very disheartened, as you can imagine.
You can't even begin to imagine.
No.
You've said it's not going to be ruled out, that there could be a public inquiry. What can you do to help them two families? We know you met yesterday.
Yeah, I think the first thing to say is that just how awful this was. Yeah. I think we all remember it vividly. I actually spoke to Grace and Barnaby's parents at the time, last year, over the weekend, and I remember it vividly today. And I think I have young kids, and your kids are like, you kind of send them out into the world and imagine they're going to be safe, right? And to have something like this happen is obviously unimaginable. And I said to them yesterday, I can't quite understand how they've got through the last year. And I spent some time with them yesterday talking about the situation. And, you know, what they've expressed to me are a bunch of questions about what's happened that they have, which are all entirely reasonable.
Absolutely.
You know, how did the NHS operate? Was the mental health properly checked at? How was the police investigation conducted? How was the Crown Prosecution Service operating and interacting with them? I think those are all perfectly reasonable questions. I would have those questions if I was in their shoes.
And some more.
And it's like what I said to them is that we will get the answers, right? That's what they deserve. That's what I've committed to. And we've set up investigations, independent ones, into all those areas I mentioned, the NHS, the Crown Prosecution Service, the police forces that did this. So they're all going to be looked at independently so we can get those answers. And that's going to happen promptly and thoroughly and effectively as quickly as possible. And once we hear back from that, then we can sit down with them and decide if there are more questions that need answering. Is the inquiry then the next logical step? Right. But, I mean, it was an awful situation.
It's terrible.
When we talk about knife crime, two teenage boys were stabbed to death in Bristol on Saturday night. It just keeps... I've seen at the minute Idris Elba is campaigning. It's not going anywhere. It seems to be getting worse. You seem to be waking up and hearing another story.
But let me just say as well, we can talk statistics and say this has gone up, this has gone down, but ultimately it's 2 more lives that have been lost.
It's too much. Two lives too many. What can we do when it comes to knife crime? Because it's terrifying. As a parent, as anybody, it is terrifying.
Yeah, look, it is. But particularly as a parent, because it disproportionately seems to impact young people. Right? And they're having their lives snatched away from them in these tragic circumstances. And you're right. And let's not get into the statistics, because every life that is lost is a life too many. So, first of all, we need to have police officers, right, first and foremost. So we've put 20,000 more police officers on the street. But then what's also important is they have the powers that they need. And the particular one is around...
Do you think people respect the police?
Yeah, I do. You know, I do. Look, obviously, there have been some incidences that have happened over the past year.
I think the police do a fantastic job, by the way.
Yeah, and look, there have been some incidences that have shaken people's confidence. But, you know, that is a minority, and those people have been dealt with, and the police have learned from that. But, look, the vast majority of police officers are working very hard to keep us safe, and
do you think they need more powers?
Yeah, so the powers they need is things on stop and search, which they've been using, because ultimately that's helped them confiscate 100,000 knives. And one of the things that we're expanding is if they're in someone's home or they see a knife that is unconnected to the reason that they are there, they now will have the ability to actually confiscate that knife. Currently, they don't. That's something that they mentioned to me when I visited with them several months ago.
Why don't they?
Well, look, these are things that were happening in the past, and now we're expanding the powers. So
can't we make that change tomorrow?
No, we're making it quickly, right? So we are making it quickly.
How quick?
Well, so Ryan, the thing with these, there's lots of people who say, hang on, we don't like it when the police stop and search people.
Agree.
And we don't like when they confiscate things.
yeah.
And it's right in a democracy we have those debates. My view is we should give the police those powers. And then we also, on the sentencing side, because we changed the law already, you're starting to see the benefit of that. So people are more likely to be in jail because of knife offences. They're more likely to spend longer in there, and that is a good thing.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure there's a deterrent. Look, I think the other side of this is, now that's on the law enforcement side, we can't lose sight of the fact that we also just need to keep investing in youth services, right? Yeah. We want safe places for our kids to be able to go after school at the weekends and to make sure they've got positive role models.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I used to volunteer at a boys and girls club a while back when I was living abroad, and we have fantastic boys and girls clubs and youth clubs across the country. They do an incredible job, and we're supporting them with extra resources and funding because that's the other side of it that we can't forget.
There's multifacets to it.
Yeah.
But we know you've got other engagements today as well. You're a very busy man. Of course, you're running the country. Autumn election. When's it happening? What's going on? Are you going to win it?
No, so I think I've said what I've said about the timing of that. on the timing.
Yeah.
No, and I think, look, I've been very clear. Like, we've been through a tough time, right, over the past year as a country, still dealing with the legacy of COVID, backlogs in the NHS, for example, war in Ukraine, energy bills. But I really believe that this year, at the start of this year, we've turned a corner and we're heading in the right direction. And the plan we've put in place is working. And you can see that most obviously with the economy. That's the foundation of, everyone watching wants financial security. And inflation was 11% when I got this job. It's more than halved to 4%.
So when are our viewers going to be heading to the polling?
Well, that I've already said, a working assumption about that. But this is really important.
Just tell me, no one else.
No one else watching, just you and me here.
It's just,
but on this point about this financial security, actually just by tomorrow, right, everyone will have had in their payslip the tax cut that we put in place. Because of our management of the economy, the plan was working. So if you're earning £35,000, going to get a tax cut this year worth $450. So that's what we're starting to deliver now. And if we stick with this plan, I'll be able to give everyone watching, all of your viewers, the peace of mind that there's a brighter future for them and their children.
We've got 10 seconds
new
before we go to
There's
break.
no autumn election.
That is what we're going to be talking
10 seconds
about.
before we go to
now
a break.
and
Are you feeling confident?
I am.
You are?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
I've been fueled by the chicken, the chicken from this morning.
Well,
It's a Tuesday.
That chicken can change everything.
And I'm always happy on a Tuesday because I start to get eating again.
Exactly.
So there we
Thank
go.
you so much for coming in.
Yeah,
today.
great to see you both.
Thank you
Thanks for
very
having me.
So much.
Right, after the break. I love this show. There's lots of variety, isn't there? We've been waiting for it all morning. We're heading back to Gok, who's in Gateshead, to reveal his makeover.
Rishi to Gok is what we want.
that's a segue we wanted. We'll see you right after this.